Hello, welcome back to the Phil Gadd Podcast, where I delve into the minds of entrepreneurs and learn how they develop their success and growth. Today is going to be slightly different again. It's a bit more of a local flavour, like I did a couple of episodes ago. Today, we delve into the mind of Kyle Hamilton, one of the candidates of the City of Fernie, City of Fernie Council elections, which are coming up next month. And we learn why he wants to run for a second term. So welcome, Carl.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. So just so you can let the listeners know a little bit about you, could you just give us a bit of a background on yourself and how you come to be in Fernie, how long you've been here, and why are you running for a second term on the City Council?
For sure. I've lived in Fernie now, let me do my math, since 2006, for 16 years, I guess. Math was never really my strong suit. It's what calculators are for.
Yeah, well, that's easy for me because my first daughter was born in 2006. So.
Oh, perfect. There you go then.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I ended up in Fernie then, or I've lived in Fernie full time since then. I actually started coming to Fernie in 90, 91 with my family for ski holidays. Kind of grew up, traveled the world, came to Fernie in 2004, spent a winter here. My brother was doing an internship working at one of the mines locally. Spent the winter living on his couch as a ski bum. It rained more than it snowed that winter, so I decided it was probably best to go back to university, finish up a second degree, and did all that and had applied. I was actually going to go to London, England to do a law degree, and called my boss here in Fernie that I'd had that winter up at Island Lake Lodge, just asked if she might have a job or any openings for that summer. And she said, I think this was probably a Thursday, she said, can you be here by Monday morning? We've got a job and a place for you to live and everything. And came here and never left. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here in Fernie and loved every minute of being here. I ran for council 4 years ago with with the aspiration of getting involved in the community in a stronger, more meaningful way. I'd sat on a number of local boards, board of directors, volunteered with the Fernie District Arts Council, Tourism Fernie, and just wanted to try and take that up to a slightly higher level with running for municipal politics. I'm really looking to get reelected this term because our first term, we started out really great. Our first year started to get a bunch of stuff done, and then 2020 came around and the world ground to a halt for essentially the next 18 months. There was a lot of stuff that we had ready to go and try and get going to help the community and help everything around here. And the pandemic kind of derailed or put a monkey wrench, let's say, into a lot of those plans. And I hope with a second term on council that we can get those plans going again and accomplish some more of the things that we'd hopefully set out to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. Couple of things there. It's funny, like you mentioned, you had all these grand plans to go somewhere else, and then, maybe a phone call or someone contacting you completely diverts the course of your life. It's really interesting. That kind of happened to me a little bit. Like I actually ended up in London, but I had to make a split decision. 1 minute I was living somewhere, the next week I was working in London, living on my friends' couches, and that changed the course of my life. And it's interesting sometimes how just like a split decision, just completely,
changes your life trajectory.
Yeah, totally. It's like a big, planet spinning and someone knocks it off axis or something. But so that's interesting. And also the fact, people forget. Well, I don't think people forget, but the pandemic was, it, like you say, it shut the world down pretty much for a long time there. And and like, even this time last year, we were still not quite out of the woods, and it seems like a lifetime ago. But yeah, it's a good reminder that everything was affected, including local government.
Totally. It's yeah. I mean, I think everybody's still well aware, but there seems to be a certain, just even in conversations that I have at the grocery store or on the street, like a bit of a collective amnesia, like that it was 18 months ago, and we were in the thick of it. Nobody knew what was happening and what was going to happen day to day. So, I mean, I appreciate why people are forgetting about it. It's certainly a time in our lives, in our collective lives, that nobody enjoyed. Nobody wants us to return to that state, but it certainly it impacted everybody in every walk of life, every organization in existence. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it did. It impacted everyone, and it's it's funny, isn't it? How quickly we forget, but how.
And I mean, it's like it's not over.
No.
Even still, you walk down Second Ave, walk into any business, and there's staff shortages. There's people, they're struggling with staffing because someone's ill, so they have to stay home, and all of those issues continue to impact the city staff as well. They get ill, they have to stay home. So the service delivery aspect is still, I don't want to say compromised, but it's still compromised in some regard, just like every other business.
I agree. I think it's just shifted. It's just shifted everything. It's definitely like, it's almost like, I vividly remember, and all parents could probably attest to this. There's life before kids, and it dramatically changes on the day that your first child is born. The pandemic's almost very similar, I mean, almost over a longer period of time though, because, I was just chatting with a friend actually the other day on a bike ride, and, encouragingly, I had an email from a couple of Aussie guys who are coming over with a work permit. So that's really encouraging that, people are coming, but like immediately there's a problem. They're looking for housing, which is, an issue. I'm sure we'll probably discuss later, but the conversation I was having with my friend, it's so different now. Like pre-pandemic, 3 Aussie guys could come over, with this like big adventure in mind, looking to find a shared house and have this amazing time. Where now, like, they'll probably really struggle to find like a house that they could all live in together, and they might have to be separate accommodation, and the whole, everything's changed, not just down to the experience of the, like, you said yourself, you were a ski bum living on someone's couch. I think, well, that actually might be more prevalent these days. There may be more couch surfers than but yeah, no, it's affected every single thing, I think.
Totally. It's as you say, like the knock-on effects and how everything has been impacted and continues to be impacted. Housing is a great issue. Example, tons of people around here were second homeowners who before COVID, as you say, or before COVID were second homeowners. They've made the shift. They're now Fernie locals, and that housing stock has been pulled out of the potential rental market. So it's a very complex, interconnected web of cause and effect. So I think there's a lot going on that we as individuals don't always think about, if A then B, and why.
Cool. All right. So I just wanted to, you mentioned a little bit at the top there, but I just wanted to unpack a little bit more, why did you want to get into local government? And, how could you define, if you do get re-elected, how would you define a successful term, another successful term as a city councillor?
Well, to answer the first question, I got into local politics mainly or primarily because I've got a personal ethos that if I'm not willing to put my hat in to do the job, then I can't complain about the people who are. So if I'm not willing to put my name forward and not willing to get my hands dirty, then I feel I have no right to complain about those people who are trying to do it. So that was kind of the impetus for it. Another aspect was, looking at the previous councils. The council right before us, there were a couple, what I would call younger, my demographic, my age range, individuals who had run. I was very happy to continue to support them. They both mentioned to me in conversation that they weren't planning to seek re-election. So again, coming back to that first point, if I'm not willing to do it, then how can I expect someone else to do it? And kind of the last aspect was, through just, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, but recognition that there was a lot of tough decisions that were going to need to be made. My background running businesses, my background being involved in board, volunteer boards in the past, I felt that I had the skill set required and the personality to make a run for it. So jump in and go. As to how would I define a successful second term? I think politics is one of those really funny roles that success might not always be how everyone else expects to see success. I think my personal standard for success for this second term, if reelected, will be that there's probably going to be a lot of people who don't like me by the end of the 4 years, because we will have had to make some really hard, tough decisions that are going to impact everybody in our community. But my goal with the next 4 years is to not just look at how my decisions are going to impact these next 4 years or my chances for re-election if I were to run again in 4 years' time, but how are we going to leave the city? Are we going to leave the city in a position that in 40 years' time we'll be able to look back on these decisions and go, yeah, that was the right decision. We needed to make the tough choice at that moment. And so I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. So it's it's interesting. Well, a couple of things. Well, like success for everyone's different.
Yeah.
So it's such a subjective, and that's one of the things I ask everyone who comes on. Define your idea of success, and I'm going to ask you that question in a minute, so you can start thinking about that one. But you're right. Not everyone's going to like every decision a city makes or anyone makes if they have an opposing opinion. So what if you could unpack a little bit? You mentioned people might not like you for some of the decisions you might have to make. Is there any way that you can elaborate on what those decisions could be?
So I mean, Fernie is facing some infrastructure crisis. I'll go so far as to use the word crisis. Situations with a number of different infrastructure components: roads, water, sewer, you name it. There are some dollar values that are going to need to be spent to bring things up to not just a standard that everybody would like, but a standard that's needed or required by law. Which, over the last 6 months, find me one thing that hasn't gone up a lot in price. So all of these different infrastructure things are going to cost more than they would have had we done them a year ago. And this isn't a Fernie specific thing by any stretch of the imagination. A fantastic book that some of your listeners might be interested in reading is called Stronger Towns, and it's all about the kind of the North American approach to growth and development over the last couple generations since Second World War, really, and how these decisions over time, expansion, laterally with subdivision after subdivision after subdivision and suburban growth has caused the cost of maintenance to escalate without the required investment in replacing and maintenance happening. So there's a lot of facilities and a lot of infrastructure in Fernie that needs to be replaced, needs to be better maintained so that it doesn't catastrophically collapse on us.
Okay.
Right now in the news, I don't know if you've been paying any attention, but Jackson, Mississippi, I think it's Jackson, Mississippi, is currently 150,000 people don't have access to clean drinking water because their water treatment plant failed after some flooding. Fernie's been known to flood in the past. So like that's kind of a key one for me is, ensuring that we've got safe drinking water for generations to come, ensuring that our wastewater treatment plant continues to meet provincial and federal requirements for safe treatment of sewage. And then just a bunch of other little things, around recreational amenities, and even some very mundane procedural bylaw things that just haven't been updated in 30 years, 20, 30 years, and are going to need to be required. Those things are probably less quote unquote sexy to talk about, but are really important from a governance perspective to keep your policies and procedures up with the times.
Cool. No, that's interesting. So, is it Stronger Towns, the book you mentioned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds and I'll pull up the author.
Yeah, that'd be Stronger Towns. Yeah.
We can chat while I'm looking.
Yeah. No. I was just trying to collect my thoughts. I did have it. Yeah. So, yeah, with it, big ticket items such as potentially, the water treatment or the whatever you mentioned, that's going to require significant capital, injection. How is the city looking to make this happen?
It's a good question. Based on what we discussed in this previous council, some of it's going to hopefully be funded through grant opportunities. There's plenty of dollars out there provincially, federally for grants. Some of it's going to have to be municipal borrowing to fund it, which once we borrow that money, it's going to have to be paid back. So taxes are going to have to increase. We don't really know how we're going to be able to fund it because at this stage we don't know what that total dollar figure is going to be. It's really tough to kind of give you this is exactly how it's going to be funded because we don't know what the cost is going to be and we don't know what the financial landscape out there is for grants. But certainly, in the last year. City staff have secured over $14 million in grants for required infrastructure projects in the city, like the Annex Dike upgrade and Fernie Valley Pathway extension. The dike is something that needed to be upgraded. The new provincial legislation is such that the old dike wasn't sufficient, and without having staff go after grants, that's going to end up having to come out of everybody's pocket. And grant money, the thing that, I've talked to a couple of people about it and I don't think they've quite understood is that's money that you've already paid. It's coming from your provincial, your federal tax dollars. So it's flowing by. Do you want to reach out and try and grab it back, put it back into the community, or do you just let it pass by and get picked up by the next town? Town.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with the infrastructure issue, is it a significant one where we can't, the infrastructure can't cope with the current amount of buildings and people, or is it something that is what's the best word is it stemming sort of growth? For example, can we not keep developing at a certain rate, because at some point we won't have the infrastructure to cope with that. I mean, where are we kind of at, like with the infrastructure?
So I guess to point blank answer your question about like, is it stemming growth? No.
Right.
It's the from my understanding and from the staff reports, which are all public information, it's all there. Go find it on the city website, and you can read all about it.
Yeah.
The city has got an element. I can't remember off the top of my head what the exact number is of zoned property ready for development.
Yeah.
And the infrastructure is designed for that capacity.
Right.
It's more just hitting end of life type things, and again, like I said, it hasn't necessarily had the maintenance, preventative maintenance and upkeep invested into it. So parts are wearing out faster, that sort of thing.
Okay, cool. Cool. All right. So,
and I've got the book. It's Strong Towns.
Strong Towns.
Yeah, by Charles L. Marone.
Okay,
Jr.
Cool. Strong Towns. All right. Go check it out. Is it a good read? Have you read it?
I've read it. I wish I had read it before I got onto council.
Okay.
It's a fantastic read. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Strong Towns. And so I want to ask this question because I'm sure it's going to come up a lot in the elections, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with it, but what is your take when someone mentions housing to you? What are you, probably your feet curl, your toes curl inside your shoes, but it's obviously, I mean, I have first-hand issues with it running a business in town, because obviously we employ employees in our restaurant. It's always been an issue, but I've always found my staff do tend to find things eventually. But I feel this year, even like we had a chef coming in, and it was a bit touch and go for a while, but eventually we did find him something. So there's definitely housing out there, but it always comes to the top of the agenda, doesn't it? And I'd just be interested to hear what your take is on
that. I mean, I own and operate my own business as well. Both of my staff are leaving town. Well, one's left town and the other one's leaving town next week. So housing, 100% top of mind for me. Not just wearing my political hat, but also wearing my business owner hat. Housing's one of those very complex and yet nuanced situations. I think. I feel that there's a lot of how do I phrase this that's politically astute. It's one of those things that everybody wants to see someone else to answer the question. There's stuff that the city can be doing to facilitate that, and we have. In the first year on council, there's that new housing development right next to Isabella Dickens that's going up. Mm-hmm. They were facing a funding shortfall. The project was almost not about to go ahead. Myself, Mayor Quilitz, Councillor Pulsifer, and I think it was just the three of us, met with Minister of Municipal Affairs Selena Robinson at UBCM. We then met with a couple individuals from BC Housing, and 4 weeks later, over $1 million was secured to get that project going. So that's a community-based project through a community organization that's did a whole bunch of legwork, owned the land, got that project going. Okay. Great. It's a great, much needed project.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that, I would say as a business owner, probably another one of them, like in short succession, would be
a huge win. Yeah.
Would be amazing. Can I just ask, I mean, I don't know why, I'm sure like everyone, they've had issues, but do you know why that's taken so long? And do you know the actual completion date now for that project?
I don't have those answers.
No.
That stuff hasn't really been presented to council.
Right.
It's yeah.
No, fair enough. I mean, if the answers aren't available, they're not available. But yeah, absolutely. In my opinion, projects like that, if there's collaboration between developers and city, if we could have another one like them, in my opinion, would be amazing. I mean, they're not short term. It's not going to be here tomorrow. But yeah. So sorry. Yeah, I interrupted you.
No, that's totally fine. I as well would love to see another project like that. In this past budget cycle, council voted to, I can't remember if it was unanimous or not, but to add an extra % to the base rate for taxes to start a housing fund. Because as a business owner, you're going to be well versed that it takes a little bit of money to make a little money. You need that seed capital to be able to initiate a project. So the city is working towards building a bit of a seed pool of funding, so that if opportunity knocks, the city has got some money to help get that ball rolling to start another project like that. One of the big things that we have dealt with on council this past term is zoning redevelopments or rezoning of developments. There's a couple bigger projects that had long-term rental built into them, that there was a lot of community and neighborhood pushback against, because people don't want more density in their backyard, so to speak. The whole NIMBYism thing, but again, I'm going to refer back to the book Strong Towns. If you read it, you'll review what they talk about. Density is what's going to help us solve the problem. I think on the past term there was only one rezoning that wasn't approved to go from an R1 to an R1B or R1 SL.
Right.
Building up some more density, allowing more people to put carriage suites or garage suites into their backyard, and helping build some additional supply in the community it's not going to solve the problem, but it's going to help ease the housing issue. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm hoping I've got a couple of guests coming on in a week or so who one has developed an app that hopefully is going to be more of a short-term solution, and another guest is the owner of Base Camp out of Canmore, who's purchased property in Fernie and I think has big plans. So really excited to listen to what them guys have got to say. But yeah, I'm in agreement. It's not short-term, but density we need to build. I don't know, I'm probably going to completely mess this quote up, but whoever said build it and they will come, I think is, I feel, and people probably don't want to hear that, or maybe not, I don't know. Some people may, because, not everyone's got the same opinion, and that's great. Everyone has different opinions, but, in my mind, I think, the time has come now. Fernie is such a blooming place. It just needs it needs the infrastructure. It needs it needs housing. It needs, like you said, old infrastructure needs to be replaced, and because, and well, in my opinion as well, the more that's built, it also has an impact on cost, affordability. But yeah, like I say, you could go down a rabbit hole with this. So
I could sit here and discuss this for hours on end.
Absolutely.
And the other point I just want to kind of hammer home again is earlier when I said, like, the decisions that we're making aren't just for the next 4 or 5 years, but for the next 40, 50 years. Decisions on zoning, decisions on densification, on development are going to have impacts in over the longer term, and not just the near term. Like housing is a solution that, we might be able to get a couple quick wins, but how does that impact 40, 50 years down the road as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot now and ask you.
You told me you weren't going to do that.
I know, I did. I lied. No, it's not that bad. I'm going to go back to my question. No, it's nothing. It's nothing terrible. I'm going to go back to my question and ask, how do you define success? And you can answer that. It's completely broad. You can put whatever you want into it.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's, as you said, it's very subjective, and like even personally, I think it depends in what context we're talking. Is it success for me as a politician? Is it success for me as a business owner? How will I know I'm lying on my deathbed and have lived a good life? Was my life a good success? I think for kind of that latter suggestion of when I look back on my life, what success will be a bit of acknowledgement to myself that I made some tough decisions, and I've left the world a better place than when I came into it. I think ultimately that would be my definition of success, is trying to leave something better than when I started.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. And that's what's such a beautiful question, because everyone has a completely different answer. And I love it. Yeah. All right. Quick fire stuff now. Getting towards the end, I think. So if there's one piece of advice you would have given yourself a decade ago, what would it be?
Well, the tongue-in-cheek answer is buy Bitcoin. But
yeah, right.
But
it's going back up again today.
Apparently, I don't follow cryptocurrencies. It's not really my jam.
Right.
But 10 years ago, what would I say now? I don't know. I honestly feel like 10 years ago me was probably a smarter version of me, and did better, more engaging things. I made some decisions 10 years ago, like met my wife and asked her to marry me. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary 4 days ago. So
perfect.
I don't think I could give myself any better advice than to go ahead and marry her.
Yeah, I'm sure she would agree.
Well, I don't know if she would or not. But yeah, that's a good question.
I know it is. You have to think about it. It's funny you should say that. I go back 10 years, and some of the decisions I made 10 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, what was I even thinking? But now, like, for example, I went out and bought a dilapidated building on 2nd Avenue, and what was I thinking? But now, fortunately, it's been a good investment, but, there's been it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but it's funny, like you go back and I don't know. It's a hard question. In some ways, if I was to answer that myself, it would be like, well, that was a crazy decision, but it was a risk worth taking. But would I have done it again? I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
So,
I'm trying to think. 12 years ago is when I set out on business on my own.
That's a big thing.
Became a full-time entrepreneur, and
yeah.
The decisions that I made as an entrepreneur back then, I don't know if I would necessarily want to change them, because those choices are what's led me to this position. And you learn as an entrepreneur, well, just in life in general, I guess you learn more from your failures than you do your successes. And I don't think I would really change any of the bumps or pivots or anything that I've been forced into over the last 10 years. So, yeah, I think if I were to go back 10 years and give myself some advice, it would be just keep your head up, keep your chin up, and just keep rolling with the punches.
Yeah, don't worry so much.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've ever really been much of a worrier myself, but Probably 10 years ago, I would have said eat a little bit healthier, drink a little bit less, and go out and go spend more time skiing.
Yeah, or riding your bike. That's
Yeah,
why we're here.
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, that's sometimes. When I'm like stressing about like when I, oh my God, I haven't got that deal, or that deal didn't work out, and then I just stop and I look out my window and I'm like, okay, yeah, right. It's all good. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I can see the mountain. It's good. Everything's good. All right. One thing no one knows about you. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think what's one thing no one will know about. I'm not a small man. Most people know me as being a very tall individual in town.
Yeah.
I was the third shortest kid in my grade 8 class. When I didn't really kind of grow until I was 14, 15, 16. So I was a late bloomer, I guess, as you say, as the kids call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, grade 8. There was 2 other kids who were shorter than me, not by much.
Wow.
But I was.
You were either in a very tall class, or you were a very, very late bloomer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter will be glad to hear that, because she's quite petite, and even her youngest sister is taller than her at the moment. So, and she's that kind of age. So hopefully she'll be a late bloomer. Cool. All right. What's I mean, you mentioned that book earlier, but are you a reader? Do you have a all-time favorite book?
I think the all-time favorite book that the book I've recommended the most is Not Wanted on the Voyage by Timothy Finley, Canadian author. I did an honors degree in English literature, so I've read my fair share of literature over the years. And voracious reader. My goal this year was to, because I've kind of fallen off the bandwagon a little bit about reading in the last 10 years. And maybe that's another piece of advice I'd go back to tell myself 10 years ago is start reading more. Put your phone down, shut the TV off, pick up a book. But yeah, I've got a goal of trying to read a book a month this year.
Cool.
I've been reading a lot about Stoic philosophy.
Yeah, interesting. I'm actually Ryan Holiday. I'm a big fan of.
That's exactly who I clued into, and who clued me into the Stoics.
Yeah, he's awesome. And I listen to I consume a lot of his podcasts when I walk the dog in the morning. Actually, the Daily Stoic is great. That's interesting, because I've really I've been doing a lot, and it's definitely helped. No, it's very good. All right. Well, once again, what's that book title again? I've got a really rubbish memory.
Not Wanted on the Voyage.
Not Wanted on the Voyage. Is that fiction or?
It's fiction. It's a retelling of the story of Noah's Ark from the perspective of Noah's wife.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So there's a lot of symbolism and very, I'll say, challenging perspectives on that story in this retelling.
Okay, cool. I'll check
but I don't want to say any more and give away the plot.
No, cool. All right. Favorite music? Do you have favorite music?
I don't have a favorite music. No. My choice of music is extremely eclectic. Everything from like instrumental trip hop stuff to I'll listen to some death metal or some hardcore rap, depending what I'm up to, what I'm feeling like.
How the mood takes you. Yeah. No, fair enough. Are you a routine person? Do you have a favorite routine?
I have just started trying to get into a routine every night of doing 15 minutes, 20 minutes of meditation, and then 20 to 30 minutes of yoga and stretching before getting to bed. Okay. Just to kind of help, and putting the phone down, just trying to shut the brain off and relax and go to bed to get a good night's sleep.
Cool. Is it working?
It is actually. The last 2 nights I've ended up having to pull some late nights at work and not really gone ahead and been able to do that. and I've noticed it in the morning. So
Okay, cool. Have you read Dan Harris?
no,
10% Happier.
yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, you should read it. If you're getting into meditation, you should read that. And then he wrote a book after that called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics,
Okay.
which is also really good. And yeah, no, it's very. If you're getting into meditation, it's a very good book to read because yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Cool. All right. So lastly, habits. Do you have a habit that you absolutely adhere to?
No, I don't. It's perhaps one of the things that I need to focus on more is developing some bit stronger habits. I've kind of always just been a wing it, fly by the seat of my pants type person. But the one habit that I've really tried to focus on, well, I mean, just mention the meditation. You know, since with the stress really of the pandemic and all of that, really been trying to focus on doing meditation every day, making meditation a bit more of a daily habit. Has it impacted? I think it's helped. It's helped just kind of generally keep myself a little bit calmer. I wouldn't say that I have a personality that gets overly anxious or anything, but just that focus on the moment and being present has certainly been, I feel, a benefit. Other habits, though, not really.
Skiing? That's a
Well,
habit.
yeah, I mean, that's skiing's a bad habit. Chasing that white powder, it's I was warned about that in high school with just say no, but yeah. Skiing and biking, those are my habits.
I know. It's always at this time of year I start looking at like snowboards and like, oh, should I buy a new one this year?
Yeah.
I mean, listeners who probably don't live in a mountain community probably have no idea what and they're probably thinking, well, what the hell? But probably why a large percentage of the people who come to Fernie probably have the same habit or addiction.
Yeah. Did you notice the fresh snow on the Three Sisters this morning?
I did actually. Yeah. It was funny actually. Someone said to me last night, I couldn't remember who it was, but my neighbour actually, we were just chatting yesterday afternoon, and he said, yeah, it won't be long till that snow comes on the top of the Three Sisters, and he was right. Yeah.
Yep.
Saw it last night. All right, Carl. Awesome, mate. Thanks very much for giving me your time today. If there's any way that people can reach out to you, talk about the upcoming election, I know that you gave me your email and your social handle. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
At I am Kyle Hamilton on pretty much all the socials platforms, and emails hello@kylehamiltonphotography.com. Feel free to fire me an email or direct message me.
Yeah, scrolling along the bottom there. So if anyone does want to reach out and chat with Carl about the upcoming election, I'm sure I'll be happy to discuss that with you. Really appreciate you discussing with us this morning. Good luck, and hopefully you're successful in getting re-elected.
Thank you. I appreciate having me on your show.
Awesome. Well, have a great weekend, and I'm sure I'll see you around.
Sounds good, Phil. Take care.
All right. Bye.